Hey, Michelle. How you doing? Just waiting for other people to join. Hi, everyone. So I'm here with you again this week, just adjusting my ring light. So I figured I would go over a bunch of stuff we've already spoken about, just sort of kind of a little overview of skincare basics and, um, a few products I like in each category. So I guess I will get started. Let me just review all the products that I have here to talk about. Okay. So, when we're talking skincare, there's a few kind of areas, a few kind of topics that we like to kind of go over. The first, I would say, is cleansing and cleansers, and then we're going to talk about some moisturizers, sunscreens, and then some more kind of advanced skincare, like for anti-aging. And please let me know if you have any questions as we go into things. So, when we're talking cleansers, we have sort of more aggressive cleansers, which might be more foaming cleansers, and we have less aggressive cleansers, like more lotion-like cleansers. Um, and different cleansers are better for different skin types. Sometimes people with more oily skin might want to use, some more aggressive cleansers. Sometimes in the summer, when you're sweaty, when you have more makeup on, more debris from your day, you might want to use sort of more aggressive cleansers. One cleanser that I love that I've mentioned before is the Bioderma micellar water. And I like this because it's super, super gentle. And basically what a micelle is a micelle is like a little particle of detergent. It has molecules that are attracted to water on the outside of it, and then it has molecules that are attracted to lipids or fats on the inside of it. So when a micelle kind of comes into contact with dirt on the skin, the dirt is attracted to the center of the micelle. And so it kind of gets swept up into the micelle. And then the water is attracted to the outside of the micelle, and the micelle kind of is attached to the water as it washes away. So that's how a detergent cleans something. And so micellar water is basically mostly water with a few little micelles floating around. And it does a really good job of sort of being a no rinse makeup remover and cleanser, but without drying out the skin, without irritating the skin. So we have this on our desk in the office, by our sink, and we use this to wash off makeup or sunscreen or moisturizer or anything before we do any laser or cosmetic procedures. So I love micellar water. I think it's a really good cleanser. Then we might, after cleansing the face, you may decide you want to put on some active ingredients. So there's a few kind of really great actives that we like to talk about in dermatology. And the three kind of really big ones are alpha hydroxy acids, vitamin C, and retinol. So the first product here that in terms of actives that I'll present is this Yon Ka Paris Alpha Peel. Um, and this has alpha hydroxy acids in it. And I really like this one. This is one that you kind of put on at night, and then you wake up in the morning with sort of like a refreshed and dewy appearance to your skin. And that's because alpha hydroxy acids break up the very top layer of skin where you're just starting to form the dead cell layer or the stratum corneum. And as it breaks up these little cells, you get exfoliation of the stratum corneum. And in people who have sort of like a dull texture to their skin, a lot of times that may be from aging or acne prone people or oily people. where the stratum corneum doesn't shed so easily. It kind of sticks on and is sticky. And so there are various ways that you can exfoliate the stratum corneum so that you reveal sort of that fresh, glowing skin underneath, where you have kind of a smooth layer that reflects the light. As things get dull and rough, the light doesn't reflect as much, so you don't have as much kind of shine. The light will kind of scatter more, so you have sort of that more dull appearance. So alpha hydroxy acids are really nice ways to chemically exfoliate, which means that you're using a chemical to break up the cells in the just below the dead cell layer, and then you get shedding of the dead cell layer. And so that's going to help give you sort of like a nice, glowing, smooth appearance with a little more shine or a little more glow. Alpha hydroxy acids are derived from fruits mostly. There's also lactic acid, which can be found in milk as well. But glycolic acid, mandelic acid, malic acid, all of those things, citric acid, are fruit acids. So a lot of times these are derived from fruits. They're very gentle and they have different sort of absorptions. And this one has multiple different types of AHAs in it. The glycolic acid is probably the best used one because it's the smallest alpha hydroxy acid, and because it's small, it penetrates the most deep, so it can be the most irritating, but it's probably the most effective in terms of giving you that chemical exfoliation. Because glycolic acid penetrates deeply, it's also been shown in studies to actually I'm just reducing the slide here a little. It's been shown in studies actually to give you some collagen stimulation and actually benefit the health of the dermis. The dermis is deeper than the epidermis, and the dermis is where your collagen producing cells or the fibroblasts reside. And so if you can use something that has been shown to encourage your fibroblasts to make more collagen, that's our goal. So glycolic acid is the most penetrating of the alpha hydroxy acids. Lactic acid is probably the next one. And so when you get a variety of different types of alpha hydroxy acids, you're getting alpha hydroxy acids that are absorbing at different levels. And so the ones that absorb the deepest are going to give you sort of the most result, but then you get effect from the ones that are less absorbed and you get less irritation from them. So I think the way that they combine multiple different alpha hydroxy acids in this product is really nice because you get a lot of efficacy with not that much irritation. And alpha hydroxy acids, if we're talking about sort of things that we want to use for anti-aging, anything, like I said, that stimulates the fibroblasts or the collagen producing cells to make more collagen is exactly the type of skincare that we want to be using, especially as we get to our 30s and 40s, 50s, because these are the kinds of procedures that you pay for in the office, to create plump, youthful skin and to keep refreshed skin throughout your life. So that is the alpha hydroxy acid. Another another topical active that, in dermatology we really like is retinol. This is a really important one. This is probably one of the most important medicines and topical actives that we have, if not the most important. In dermatology, we use both retinols and retinoids. Retinol, which this product is an over-the-counter vitamin A. Retinol is just another name for vitamin A. A retinoid is a prescription strength topical that is a vitamin A derivative. And usually, these molecules are shifted so that they produce more of an effect. And that can mean more irritation and more benefit. And so in people who are just starting with a vitamin A, I usually do recommend that they use an over-the-counter retinol before we go to prescription retinoid, because a retinol will give them, nice improvement in their skin tone and nice turnover of the skin without irritating them. late for you, Michelle. This is a good time to start. You know, your 40s are a great time to start doing some anti-aging skincare. This one is good because this one is encapsulated. That just means that the retinol molecules are sort of, oh, Michelle, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to reveal your age to everyone. You're 25. Um, the encapsulated retinols are nice because they are very easy to tolerate. So they kind of penetrate deeply without causing a lot of irritation. And that's what it means when a product says that the retinol is encapsulated. A retinol is also a fat soluble molecule. It can be used um, in other formats, but using it in an oil form is sort of the best way to get absorption of it, because that's where the molecule kind of wants to hang out, in sort of an oily, fatty vehicle. So this is an oil. Another reason why it's nice to have an oil when you put on your retinol is that an oil is very moisturizing and soothing. And so when an oil is, you know, because you're combining it with moisturizer, means that you're less likely to get redness and peeling, which is what happens when you kind of overuse retinol when you first start. Anyone should be able to use retinol, or most people will be able to use retinol daily or nightly, but you have to just get used to it. So I'll tell people to start once or twice a week, and then you slowly build up to 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, until you're tolerating it or until your skin is retinized. If you do it every day before your skin is retinized, you will get red and peely. A lot of people kind of stop early, thinking that it means that they're allergic or they're sensitive to it. They're not. It's just you haven't given your skin enough time to adjust to it. At least you know that it's doing something, which is nice for a topical skincare product that you're going to end up spending money on. Beth asked, should people older than Michelle use retinoids? Retinoids, I mean, you should, you know, even people in their 20s will start using a retinol or retinoids, because it helps prevent skin cancer by turning over the skin, helps prevent acne. People, you know, some people unfortunately will get acne into their 40s and 50s even, and so retinol can be helpful for that. It's anti-aging because it stimulates collagen production. So retinol does a ton of different things. And another thing that it does is to help reduce pigmentation. So just kind of in turning over the skin and making the skin turn over a little bit faster and healthier, it helps shed hyperpigmentation. So in people who struggle with hyperpigmented patches or brown patches like melasma, or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation from acne marks, the retinol is going to help shed this pigmentation faster. It stimulates your fibroblasts to make more collagen. So in that sense, it's anti-aging. Because it turns over the cells a little bit faster, damaged cells that are sun damaged and kind of wanting to form precancerous spots or even skin cancers will shed will shed as well. And so that in that way, it's sort of anti-skin cancer. So retinol has a ton of really, really good properties. Beth asked what products shrink pores, the glycolic peels. Retinol can help with the appearance of pores by reducing the oil production in the skin. You know, pores are normal to have, and it's not normal to have kind of poreless skin that you see in Instagram filters. It's normal to have some pores, but a lot of people will come in wanting to reduce this appearance of their pores. And the way that you reduce the appearance of pores is by reducing the oil production in the skin. Retinol will do this, and also niacinamide is another thing that will do this. Glycolic acid and salicylic acid, those will also help by sort of clearing out the pores, so you don't have little sebaceous filaments or little blackheads forming. So glycolic acid in that sense can make the appearance of pores less. What else? Retinol. So retinol is a really, really important thing to use. So other than sunscreen, I would say retinol is kind of the most important active that you should be using if you want to kind of help the health of the skin and reduce signs of aging. The third active that we can talk about is vitamin C. Vitamin C is another really popular one, especially among dermatologists. And so, oops. And so this one by Cora is really good. Vitamin C is the most important antioxidant in the skin. We have vitamin C in our bodies, but when we apply it to the surface of the skin, we can get that antioxidant effect directly to the skin. And vitamin C, what an antioxidant does is basically when you have sun or pollution, your cells or aging, your cells get stressed. And when your cells get stressed, they have oxygen molecules that become sort of unstable, and they can be destructive to the cell. And you need to have antioxidants in your body and in your cells to help stabilize those molecules. So adding antioxidants can have an anti-aging effect because you're reducing damage that UV is causing or that aging is causing on your cells. And so when we load up the skin with vitamin C, which is the most important antioxidant in the skin, we're helping to reduce the damage that aging and sun has caused. So vitamin C is a really good option for applying antioxidants to your skin. It's been shown to be synergistic with using sunscreen, so that adding vitamin C to sunscreen actually helps prevent UV damage, and that's because you have this extra antioxidant there that is neutralizing damage as it's created. It's also been shown to be synergistic with vitamin E, which is another antioxidant. And so many vitamin C products, including this one, will include vitamin E in the product so that you get that synergistic effect between the two antioxidants. So you can get more effect than just having either of them separately. And vitamin E in an ingredient list is called tocopherol, TOCOPHEROL. So it doesn't often list as vitamin C, or vitamin E, it'll say tocopherol. And vitamin C might be listed as something, ascorbate or ascorbic acid, ascorbate glucoside, something like that, something with ascorbate in it. And ascorbate is the same thing as vitamin C. Beth asks about niacinamide. I didn't see that, Beth, but niacinamide is also an active that's probably kind of like secondary to retinol and vitamin C and alpha hydroxy acids. It's probably kind of in the next tier of sort of efficacy. A lot of people really do like niacinamide. It's been shown to be anti-inflammatory and also reduces sebum production. So in people with acne, niacinamide can be really helpful. In people with rosacea, niacinamide is helpful because it's anti-redness and anti-inflammatory. So niacinamide can be helpful for kind of inflammatory conditions and oily skin. Less of an anti-ager, but still good, for certain conditions. So let's go on, since we're talking about sunscreen. My favorite sunscreen in the world is Supergoop Unseen Sunscreen. I wear this sunscreen and I recommend it to most of my patients, not everybody, depending on what they need. I know, Michelle, we both love Unseen Sunscreen. It's probably the best sunscreen I've ever seen or encountered. It's totally odorless, colorless, goes on completely clear. It's good for any skin type, which is really important. People don't like, especially with darker skin types, having a white cast on their skin from sunscreen, and this doesn't have this at all. It's silicone based. The vehicle is silicone based, and silicone, if you don't know, feels very kind of silky and smooth, but not at all greasy and not wet. And so it doesn't feel oily. It doesn't feel greasy like a lot of sunscreens do. It is a chemical blocker, not a physical blocker. So when we have UV blocking, when we have molecules that block UV in sunscreens, they can either be physical blockers or chemical blockers. Chemical blockers are molecules that will absorb UV light and prevent it from getting to the skin and causing damage to our cells. The physical blockers will also absorb some UV light, but also reflect UV light. Both are good, and they're good for different purposes. I think with melasma, or people who are very sensitive, have conditions that are super sun sensitive, sometimes the physical blockers are better because they do provide a little more coverage in the UVA and visible light range. But for most people who just need a sunscreen that they like to wear, the Supergoop Unseen sunscreen is perfect. It's very pleasant to wear, which is unlike many sunscreens that I've tried. So I think this is a really good one. Sunscreen is the most important thing that you can do every day. Beth asked if it's tinted. It's not tinted. The next one I'll talk about is tinted. Tinting is important, especially for people who have melasma or very light sensitive conditions, because when it's tinted, that means that it's covering some visible light. And the sun emits not only ultraviolet light, but also a lot of blue light. And blue light can make melasma worse and other types of hyperpigmentation. So you do want a tinted sunscreen in people who have melasma or other types of very sensitive hyperpigmentation conditions. So this one is not tinted, but many men like it to be completely untinted, and many women also don't want to have any tint to their skin. And so this is just looks like you're wearing nothing, which is great, and a really good option. The next sunscreen that I also love is another Supergoop sunscreen, which is called Matte Screen, and this is a physical blocker. So physical blockers are zinc or titanium. So these are elements, metals that absorb and reflect UV light. And in the past, physical blockers used to be very matte and opaque looking, because we didn't have the technology to micronize the particles and make it so it's kind of cosmetically elegant. So they were very cosmetically inelegant. And so, those are the types of sunscreens that lifeguards would wear, where they have like white noses, because they would just slap on the mineral sunscreen and there, no light can pass. There's just a white, cream. Now there's a lot of chemically, kind of cosmetically elegant mineral sunscreens, including this one. They still often have a little bit of a color to them because they have some opacity. And when they're, and that's some sort of a good thing in a way, because when it's opaque, it tells you that it's blocking some visible light. If it's completely transparent, we know visible light is getting through because we can see through the skin. So when it's opaque a little bit, we know that it's blocking some visible light. And that's important for people with very sensitive hyperpigmented conditions. And so this one is one that I'll recommend to them because it has a little bit of a tint to it, which is important. It's a physical blocker, so it does a really good job of blocking not only UVB, but also UVA and some visible light. Many tinted sunscreens have iron oxide in the inactive ingredients. So when you're looking at ingredients, if you have melasma and you want to get sunscreen and you want it to protect you from getting more melasma, you want to get something that protects you from a lot of UVA and also visible light. You want to find a tinted sunscreen that has iron oxide in the inactive ingredients. They don't call it an active ingredient just because that's what the FDA had determined, but iron oxide helps block blue light. And so this one has iron oxide in it, and many of the tinted ones that are really good for melasma will have iron oxide in it as one of the other blockers. A lot of people have been talking about chemical sunscreen blockers and very small components of benzene being found in them, and benzene is a known carcinogen. The amounts of benzene are so minuscule, and it's only kind of in like expired products, that I really wouldn't worry about that. Ultraviolet light itself is a known carcinogen. So it's really important that you use sunscreen. Try not to be swayed by sort of like fear tactics in terms of sunscreens, because we know that ultraviolet light is a carcinogen. So, the dose makes the poison. So even tiny things that are known carcinogens if it's in a small enough uh, concentration. It doesn't. This one doesn't have any of that, but I'm just kind of addressing, the kind of like fear messaging around some chemical sunscreens. So I think chemical sunscreens like the unseen sunscreen are still perfectly great. Um, Beth asks, can you completely get rid of melasma? You can get rid of melasma temporarily. You can't really cure melasma. Melasma is, if you're prone to melasma, it's something that's probably going to keep coming back. You can control it, but often you need to kind of stay on top of it with topicals or in-office treatments in order to kind of keep it at bay. What will do the most for you with melasma is sunscreen and sun protective habits like seeking shade, wearing a hat, wearing sunglasses. But it's difficult to control entirely. Even if you do laser treatments and topical lighteners and you're really careful with the sun and you have one afternoon where you're walking around without sunscreen on a sunny day, you can get all of your melasma back. So it's a difficult condition, but you want to get into the habit of wearing a nice tinted sunscreen every day. We didn't talk about moisturizer. I'll just mention this one quickly. I think there's a lot of really good moisturizers on the market. This one's a really thick one. It's a little bit thick for summer months when it's so hot, but it's a really good one for winter or sort of like for overnight sort of rejuvenation. This one is just, has a lot of oils and lipids in it. These are things that sort of trap moisture in, prevent transepidermal water loss. And so this one feels really nice and creamy. And this one is something that, you might use kind of at night to lock in your actives and prevent any water loss in the skin. This one has, I think, avocado oil and some other kind of oils like that do a really good job of sort of moisturizing and locking in moisture. And then, is this a good choice for childhood eczema? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's for childhood eczema, you want something really, really thick and creamy. And sometimes even we recommend like the most occlusive moisturizer in the world, which is Vaseline or Aquaphor or Petrolatum. That's going to be like 100% occlusive. And so in childhood eczema, you really want to protect that skin barrier with things that are occlusive and prevent transepidermal water loss, because in eczema you have an impaired skin barrier that loses a lot of moisture and a lot of hydration, and so anything that can lock that moisture in is great. And so in babies with really severe eczema, we'll just tell moms and dads to slather them with Aquaphor and Vaseline. But as they get older, that's a little bit uncomfortable. So you want to find like a nice, thick, creamy moisturizer that has a lot of occlusiveness to it, a lot of kind of fats and lipids and waxes or hydrocarbons like Aquaphor that kind of lock moisture in. Danielle, hi Danielle, asks, is Amazing AM or PM item? I would say in the summer months, I would probably, use this in the PM in the night, because, when you sleep, you're getting like a really nice moisturizing, almost like little mask from it. You're locking your actives in. I think it's a little hot these days in New York, at least, to use such a thick, creamy moisturizer. I think it's better in the morning, probably during the winter time. Anyway, it looks like our time is almost up. So thank you everybody for joining me, and I will see you next week. Thanks, Beth.